like, I just found out that's really neat. There's people that do. Like, yeah, dude, there's a lot. I'm going to help guide you to a good one, though.
Yeah, you know what? Most people, I would say 9 out of 10 people I talk to, and I've been doing this for a while, have no idea we exist.
That was Gigi, the franchise guide, or rather, Giuseppe Grammatico, franchise consultant. He is the author of the Franchise Freedom book and podcast. He helps people figure out if franchising is right for them. And today he talks about a lot of the do's and don'ts it comes to when it's time for you to look for your franchise that you want to buy. Do more by doing less. With me, Charles Alexander, for small business owners, startups, and busy folks. Giuseppe's drinking Red Dive 40, and he's like, it's okay. I mean, I don't sleep for 2 hours a day, but otherwise it's fine.
It gets overwhelming because it's like one has these features, one doesn't. So I just did a show on AI, and I'm like, it's a tool. Use it, but don't rely on it. And
yeah, well, that's a great little segue. I made a note of that. So for anybody watching, listening, first, Giuseppe, tell them what a franchise consultant does, and then I want to get into the AI component and what that's doing.
A franchise consultant, we're consultants, coaches, advisors. You hear multiple terms, and really what we do is we help you figure out, more importantly than anything else, if a kind of what your current situation is, and if a business, including a franchise, may be a good fit for you. So, just because you don't like your job doesn't mean you should jump into business ownership. So we talk about that. We talk about keeping your job and strategizing and having a business as a safety net in the event you were to lose your job. So it's a free service, just like an executive recruiter. We get paid from the franchise companies, and we just spend a lot of time with you, working with you, figuring out what the ideal business looks like. Not what's the hot franchise, but let's figure out what your skill set is, what you enjoy doing. And then at the very end is when we start looking at franchise matches.
I'm surprised still, and I guess I'm just in my own world on LinkedIn and everywhere else, know a bunch of other guys, that the average bear out there doesn't know this is a thing. I was just talking to a friend of mine who was kind of toying around doing this. I may have sent them to you. And they were thinking of different ideas like, have you talked to a franchise consultant? They're like, I just found out that's really neat. There's people that do. Like, yeah, dude, there's a lot. I'm going to help guide you to a good one, though.
Yeah, you know what? Most people, I would say 9 out of 10 people I talk to, and I've been doing this for a while, have no idea we exist. We try to get the word out, but most people are like, I didn't even know this existed. If I knew you existed, I may have done things differently. We see too many people just diving into it. They see a franchise, just talking to someone. They bought a franchise, and I go, and they weren't happy. And I said, well, why did you buy it? And they said, well, we like the product. But I go, how much due diligence did you do? Did you talk to any franchisees? And they said, no, we spoke with one local franchisee. And I go, that's literally a bulk of the due diligence is talking to franchise owners.
Man, I'll do, a ton of business coaching, a lot of existing business startups. And I am amazed at the number of people who are in the process. I mean, it's not even they're talking to me before, and they're in the process of buying a franchise.
Right.
Talk to them about it, and they've done no research on it. They just like you. Well, they sell these really cool donuts, and it's in another state, but I just know it would be hot here. And even the ones that I do talk to now on the front end say, have you called any franchisees?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea. It's like, yeah, it's a great idea. Dude, don't just call the ones a franchisor gives you. You pick up the phone and call a few random ones.
That's it. I go back to the basics, right? I mean, just like anything else, when you want to get a roof, right? You want to replace your roof, or you want to put an addition. Do you just go first person in the yellow pages, or who uses the yellow pages anymore?
That's a good reference.
Who's using, are you just doing the first Google search? No. For me, it's referrals. Who do you know? Who do you recommend? You do your research, you talk to a few people, and same thing with business. And I'm shocked at people that just buy the franchise because they like the product, like you mentioned, donuts or sweets or ice cream.
Yeah.
Guess what? You can own a very profitable franchise and buy all the donuts and ice cream you want. You don't have to actually own that business.
That's right.
So it's surprising, but I learned early in my career, don't assume things. So sometimes I go back to the basics when someone asks me a question and they're like, wow, I didn't realize that. Let me slow down and take a step back and maybe restart this process, this research.
Well, that makes me think. All right, so 2 questions. I'm going to come back to the AI one. I had a push pin here. It's not a real push pin.
Okay.
So you talking about mistakes. I know you've been pretty open about this before because you bought into a franchise. What are some of the early mistakes that you kind of made that you try to help other people not make?
Yeah, when you buy a franchise, we talk about the support and the coaching and things like that, which
Mhm.
is great. And one thing I did as a young guy in my 20s, first business I owned 100% of, was I became a bottleneck in the business. And what does that mean? Essentially, what I was doing was I was utilizing the support from the franchisor. So it wasn't on the franchisor, it was on me. But I had to okay every decision. So I was trying to pull away from the business, but my general manager had to check in with me to get everything
Sure.
approved. And I was like, why? Someone said to me, I had hired a business coach. Why are you doing that? They're been in the business. They get it. You're a bottleneck. They're waiting on you. So an 8 o'clock email may not get responded to until 8 p.m. 8 in the morning. That's 12 hours that
Sure.
have gone by. So I think it was more of a trust thing. My first baby, my first business. So
Sure.
that,
And a
that
lot of
was,
people get in that mode where they're God of the business, so to speak. Everything's got to go through me.
And listen, we get it. This was my life savings on the line. I had a lot riding on this. I had just left my job. I had run the business on my own for a year when I hired that general manager. But you have to trust people, but you have to prepare them. And so with that point, when you go to hire, you have to reverse engineer everything. So regardless of the franchise or business or what have you that you start, and you hire that general manager, the franchisor or whomever are going to give you a job description, you need to tailor that job description and say, okay, I'm only going to be involved in the business a couple hours a week. So I need to tailor that so that that manager can hire and fire. That manager can deal with X, Y, and Z. So you're really are tailoring that job description so that they can work within kind of your availability during the week, if that makes sense.
It makes a ton of sense. And that's one of the reasons you buy a franchise, period, is so you can follow a system, put not just the process in place, but the people in place and let you kind of step out of the way.
Right.
I worked for 5 years at ServPro, the headquarters, here in little old Gallatin, Tennessee, but as a $1 billion+ company. And the successful franchisees that we would train were always the people that could read a manual and just follow it and put the process in place, put the person in place and step out of the way and just check the KPIs, the dashboard, which back then was kind of rough, but it worked. And the people, it would always be people with the least amount of experience that would do that. The people with more experience had to keep throwing in their own processes and procedures and their own God complex. They had to review and do everything because they had one bad experience where somebody used, a wallet cleaning product and the carpet cleaner. And then, from then on out, they cost themselves hours and all the frustration in the world, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, I literally recorded, I did a show, the 3 reasons franchisees fail. And then I did that a few months ago. And then last night I recorded 3 reasons franchisees succeed. I never kind of did a show to follow up on that. And the systems are number one. You're buying the value proposition of a franchise is their systems, because they give you that unfair advantage. You want to be up and running relatively quickly. Follow the damn system. I tell people, if you're not going to follow the system, that's fine. Don't buy a franchise.
You can do it on your own.
You can do it on your own. Right. You save the fee, you figure it out. But sometimes when people say to me, do you need experience with a franchise? And I said, certain franchises you do in that particular industry, but the good franchises, or the franchises that have their clear, franchise avatar, they're looking for a skill set, a personality. Are you outgoing? Because the franchisee is an advocate. You're a cheerleader for the brand, going to businesses, doing podcasts and webinars and chamber of commerce events. If they're looking for that and you're introverted and they can barely hear you on the phone, they're going to come back and say, we would love to have you, but we know that our franchisees are going to be successful that have this outgoing personality. This may not be a good fit. And that's the sign of a great franchisor. They have their avatar, their franchise avatar. So.
They don't accept everybody that'll throw them a couple of bucks.
Correct.
So circling back to what I've mentioned a couple of times, how is AI affecting all of this?
So AI, that's a good question. So personally, I think AI is a tool. I use AI to assist me, not to replace, but for example, helping me transcribe all my shows. I use a product called Descript, and AI is able to get the transcript of the show, my own words and our words for doing an interview like this, and rewrite that into a blog. So it's really helped me streamline the process, cut my hours in half when it comes to marketing and content creation. There's products I'm testing that are able to pull clips and all that other great stuff. But I think AI, overall, I think if we use it as a tool, I think it's great. If you're using it saying, okay, I'm going to just get rid of all my marketing and just give it cues and prompts and have it create everything for me, I think that those people are missing the mark personally. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was going to say, I'm right there with you. I've been doing a LinkedIn newsletter, which I didn't even really know was a thing until our mutual buddy, John Nemo, pointed it out, LinkedIn King there. But I've been doing LinkedIn lives every day, if for no other reason, just to keep my feet wet and keep in the practice of speaking. And then my VA, she'll take it, put it into Descript, get the transcription of it,
right?
My words, like you just said, and then she'll pop it into Chat GPT, where I have tightened it up as much as I can, and she'll get an article out of it. So she'll take the video, the article, put it on LinkedIn, set it up to go out as a newsletter. I'll go in and double check it just to make sure it understood some of my southern twang, make sure I didn't say something crazy, right, like, drink Lysol. But that's it, and it makes it so much faster and easier.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a tool. But here's the thing, right? It's an easily accessible tool. So keep that in mind. It's $1 million a month, and only the rich can afford it. So it's free. Chat GPT plus $20 a month. There's Bard, Bing Bard, or is it Bing? I'm getting them all confused, but they're inexpensive. I mean, I'm looking at a dozen, and it's $100 or less per month. So everyone has access to it.
Everybody's got it. It's like Canva.
Yes. Free, right? I mean, in many cases, it's free. And in many cases,
it can be a good thing. But as you scroll through Facebook, Instagram, whatever, even the most novice person is like, I've seen that. Where have I seen that? Oh, 400 other places.
Yeah, you got to step up your game. We all have access to the same tech, so it's really stepping up. And the way, so you kind of asked me, just to kind of circle back from the original question, the way I look at it is, we know what we want to talk about, right? And obviously it could be maybe a little bit better polished or distributed. So I'd work with a gentleman, Justin Simon, who had helped me with repurposing. And I think if you have the main points of content out there, you can use AI for the repurposing aspect. Just because you posted something today doesn't mean everyone saw it. So you post it, and then you can literally, especially if it's evergreen content, utilize the AI to write a Twitter thread. You got a video, a blog post, just a regular Twitter post or LinkedIn, and use that to kind of drip over the next 12 months. I think that's where it assists. And what's the purpose of that? We're distracted. There's a lot going on. So maybe they didn't see the first 4 posts, but they see it on the 5th. They just have to be scrolling and see your content, and you're staying top of mind. And what does it at the day do? If I can talk today, it creates omnipresence. You got the podcast, you got which is in many cases audio, you got the video on YouTube, you got the snippets, YouTube shorts. So I think it creates this omnipresence where you're just
wherever I go, there's GG.
Top of mind, right? You can't escape. Can't escape.
So going back to the franchise piece real quick, and and this is probably a great way that you create content. What are some of the top questions you get from, let's say, a Charles Alexander out there who's, mid-40s, and that's being generous. Mid-40s, ready to plant his flag, cash open his 401k, and burn the boats, and insert cliche here. What are some of those top questions you get when they're out shopping for franchises that they need to know?
Yeah, I've been doing a better job there asking my community and people following me, and I didn't realize how it was a drastic 50%, and we have 5 different areas that we were asking about, but 50% plus in the last couple LinkedIn polls. Funding, I was actually shocked by this.
Really?
Funding was, and I don't know why, and it just really threw me off. So basically, to everyone listening in, a business requires some type of capital. You heard the expression "skin in the game," but you'll be shocked at the options out there. As you mentioned, if you qualify, and typically it's from a previous, if it's coming from a previous employer, if you're currently working, it won't work. But if you're leaving your job or have old money from another company, you can use your retirement, penalty free, interest free, all that kind of stuff, where you roll over the funds into a C corporation and utilize those funds.
Is that the ROBS?
The ROBS plan.
Gotcha.
Yeah, a retirement rollover business startup, it's called. So people are not aware, like, wow. What's that?
They named it Rob.
Rob's, which is, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It is a funny name, but people get excited about that. But the caveat, and it's got to be a previous employer. But, you have SBA loans, but with the SBA, 20, 30% down roughly.
Big deal.
And it all depends on the situation and how many territories and locations you're purchasing. But you got to have some money to put down, because number one, you need something down. And then number two is you need working capital. You need some money to float you. The business, you don't open up day one and you're profitable. And hopefully you are, and I wish everyone was, but it may take a little bit of time depending on the type of business, like with ServPro or these restoration kinds of businesses. If you're getting paid by an insurance company, it may take you 60 days to get paid.
Right.
So how are you paying your employees for those 60 days? So there are tons of options. But with that, I think what the bigger picture is, people are assuming that all franchise, and this would be another top concern or question, is that it's all fast food and McDonald's and Chick-fil-A's of the world. So they're assuming it's like this $1 million plus investment, when yes, there are plenty of restaurant franchises, but believe it or not, there's franchises in business coaching. There's franchises in pet waste removal, eyelash extensions,
picking up
mental health. I mean, literally, there is. We're working with a new franchise that works with testosterone shots, and that's something. So
IVs,
vitamin IV infusions. It's literally just about any 75 plus industries, 4,000 plus franchises. Once you realize that it's not $1 million, you could buy a franchise and the all-in investment is under $100,000 when you factor in the working capital, employee costs for the first first 3 or so months. There are options out there, and there's ways to fund it. So what I say is, when someone jumps on a call with me, and again, there's no cost for our service, we put you in touch with a funding partner. Again, no cost for their initial plan, initial consultation, only if you move forward. But they'll come back and say, you qualify for number one, number two, but option three, not right there. In order to qualify, you need to have an extra $10,000 in savings and increase your credit score by 10 points. So they'll give you kind of a path and a plan. So I think if you're interested, when's the best time to look? The best time is now, because you may not qualify. So let's plan accordingly and put together this plan to maybe qualify later on in the year.
That's great advice. Too many times people just want to do it when it's quote unquote time to do it, and they didn't realize all of the different funding things they need to have in place. And that's one of the biggest topics I probably had to talk on in over, a couple of decades now. Just to me are basic, but to everybody else, they don't know it. The 5 C's of credit. You need to have, in most cases, about 20% to put in, and people don't realize it's almost like a house down payment. And they even come to me frustrated, like, well, I'm borrowing the money. Why do they make me bring my own money? Well, first they want to see that you've had the ability to save a few bucks, and then secondarily put a little skin in the game. And then that's not just for franchises, that's any startup, but franchises are included. And then you need to have collateral that's second C, hold the note. And that's usually your house in a lot of cases, not your baseball card collection and not the jet skis, conditions of how you're going to spend it. But then character, do you have a couple of years of experience? And now you can get that waived in a lot of cases for franchises. If they're on the approved franchise model, they just want to see that you got a couple of years of experience at some type of gainful employment where you've managed, marketed, or whatever else has been out there. But then cash flow is kind of big. And that's especially for a pure startup that doesn't do franchising. And again, franchising, if you're on that approved list with the SBA, you can get a little leeway at it. But man, I'll never forget, I had this dude that came in with a cupcake idea. A guy, cupcakes, like cupcakes. Yeah, cupcakes for guys. Nobody's doing this. That's a great idea. He was just fired up and excited. And he kept telling me he had all the ingredients for the cupcake, but he just needed the recipe. Then I had to sit down and explain to him, like, look, man, your ingredients that you have are like the whatever salt and vanilla extract. You're missing flour and sugar, cash and collateral. Yeah. And he got frustrated. Why don't they understand how important this is and how it's a gold mine? Like, they don't do gold mine stuff. You bring some of those 5 C's to the table, or better yet, go buy a cupcake franchise. You'll be a little more leeway into getting in there.
Right, because what's happening is, like, we work with a funding partner. They have to make the case for you. They don't just go to one lender, so they'll go to multiple lenders and say, this is a franchise that they're established, they do well. And yes, it is a new venture, a new business, but they're going to be utilizing the model of the franchisor. So they make the case for you. They try to get you the best rates. But yeah, there's a risk, right? If you're loaning money to somebody else, same exact thing. You want to make sure to get paid. And that's what the bank is trying to do. Now, once you're up and running, obviously it gets a little bit easier. You can start, you have the value of the business. You start having existing cash flows and a history. You're proving yourself, assuming you made all your payments to the bank. But working with, in my opinion, the funding partner gives you the big picture, because now they can say, these are the 3 products we offer and you're approved for all 3. But just in the case we're working with someone right now, but in your case, you have a ton of equity in your home and you may be just better off getting a home equity credit with the bank. So we don't offer that. We can't assist you there, but we recommend possibly going down that route because it's going to be less expense and the interest rates are favorable. So they're going outside options. But what I see and why I don't get into all the very, very specifics with every family I work with is that even with an SBA, they don't accept every franchise. So there are certain franchises out there that are no employee model. There's literally franchises out there that can kind of be run on its own with maybe one subcontractor or vendor, and the SBA does not loan for those types of businesses. People get excited and they're ready to go to find out the SBA doesn't loan for those. And I'm not saying there's a lot of those options, but I always say,
even in those cases, those are probably lower startup costs, lower franchise fees, I would think.
Believe it or not, they're actually greater because they do involve some of those brick and mortar, but it's kind of a hybrid real estate. Yeah, in the salon, it's in the salon suite space where health and beauty, you're essentially having tenants without owning the actual real underlying real estate. And but yeah, the SBA doesn't like certain investments, or they're not comfortable at this point. But there are other preferred vendors. So once we look at a specific brand, the franchisor sometimes comes back and says, we've had a lot of success with this lender. Why don't we make that introduction? You could still work with the funding partner, but let's throw this one into the mix as just in case, because they're specific for this brand. So that's why I say it's early in the process, and don't just assume it's a standard SBA loan and there's real estate involved. It could take you 3 to 4 months to get funding, depending on how quickly you find the real estate. So that's why you do it sooner than later and keep the franchisor updated along the way.
Well, in looking at doing that, I always tell people my favorite thing is for them to start a business while they keep their full-time job. Is that an option with some franchises?
Yeah, we call it the safety net. And really that's where, so not every franchise company will allow that. So just to be very clear, a lot of franchises will say, we need you full-time in the business the first 6 months and transition out so you learn the business. But there are plenty of brands out there that allow semi-absentee ownership. So that's one key way to funnel down your franchise search. And what you do is you keep your job. They're going to give you requirements. Is it time sensitive? Is it not? Do you need to be available during the day a couple hours, or is it in the evening and weekends a couple hours a night? And so once that's all figured out, absolutely, you keep your job, you run the business, you maybe put a general manager in place, and then you have a plan and just say, maybe in a year, I'm going to transition out of my job. So you're not stressed. You got the income still coming in. You still have the health benefits and everything else that goes along with it. And you have a plan that in 12 months, you're going to step away from your job, giving your employer enough notice and things like that. So absolutely. It's actually an area that we're probably the most popular area is, how do I get my feet wet in franchising business ownership, but mitigate some of the risk? And I said, well, if you want that paycheck every week, then why don't we do a semi-absentee ownership? And it's been extremely popular. It's a majority of the placements we've made has been in semi-absentee ownership.
Ooh, that's singing my song, man. Hey, let's take a quick transition. A few more easier, more fun questions. And by easier, more fun, you may hate them. What is something you should be doing less of right now?
Something I should be doing less of. For me personally, it's been some of the admin and marketing. That's why I've been looking into AI. And as we were talking before the show, looking to hire possibly a virtual assistant to take that off my plate. And the admin, I don't enjoy doing. Some people enjoy it. I don't. So some of the editing and posting of shows and things like that. So I'm looking to hire a VA to take that off my plate so I can spend the time doing what I enjoy. And it's talking to families and getting on and talking on different shows.
People like doing some of that stuff because it makes them busy, and we like to say we're busy. So if you do less of that, what will that allow you to do more of? And I think you just answered it.
It's do the stuff I love, and to be honest, maybe at one point cut the work week to 4 days and take a 3-day weekend. I've toyed with that idea. I haven't implemented that yet, but 3-day weekend. It's summer. We live near the beach, and I'd like to enjoy some of that and beach walks, and maybe kind of get it all into 4 days. So just be a little bit more efficient with time.
So speaking of beach walks, where's your favorite vacation spot?
Favorite? I don't know if I have one. We're going to Europe later this year. We're going to where my family's from in Italy, and my wife in the Czech Republic. But it used to be the New Jersey shore growing up, because that's where we used to go. But we've been visiting. The Outer Banks was one of my favorite spots. We've only visited once. That was pretty amazing. So
my teenage daughters are very fond of Outer Banks.
It is, and the show.
That's the only thing we know about it.
Gotcha. My kids love it as well. But it was nice to actually go there and then watch the show after. So you're like, oh wow, that's a really cool place. So I'm still working on the favorite spot, but Outer Banks.
You're going to Italy. That you've got the favorite spot. I want to hear all about it. And
I've only been there once before, so yeah. So I'm definitely looking forward to going with the kids this time. The kids weren't born yet. It was that long ago.
So tell us, how can somebody watching, listening find you?
Very simple. So if you go right to the website, and we're actually in the process of updating the site. So my initials, because Giuseppe is very difficult to spell. So GG, the franchise guide, and that's GUIDE. So ggthefranchiseguide.com. There's a couple things. So number one, if you're not ready to chat, you click on podcast. We have 150 episodes covering every topic. My buddy here, Charles, was on the show too long ago. We talk about selling your business, franchise, non-franchise, funding and legal, all that great stuff. We have a workshop that talks about the employee to employer, how to keep both, and the transition and the mindset. And then actually, I had it in the background here, but my book, Franchise Freedom, same title as the show. It's my exact blueprint, guys. It is a free download. It's exactly what I learned throughout the way. Should you decide to do this on your own, it's a blueprint showing you exactly step by step on not only how to find a business, how to create a team of advisors to help you from here on out. If you would like us to help you through the process, we'd be honored to speak with you. There's no cost. I always say, why go it alone if we can assist through the process? But that book that we wrote is literally my blueprint to helping over 1,000 people decide if franchise ownership is the right fit.
All right, folks, you got it. GG, the franchise guide. This guy's got you covered. Giuseppe, thanks for coming on today, bud.
Thanks, Charles. It was a pleasure. Take care.
All right. Wait. Don't run off just yet. Do me a big favor. Hit the little plus sign to subscribe. Scroll down wherever you are and leave a very honest 5-star review and tell other people why they should be listening. And if you don't, an angel may in fact lose its wings. True story. Have a great day.